So fellas, this morning, Baldy's been announcing some more fights for the UFC, starting off with UFC 322 JDM versus Makhachev. Now, we kind of all saw this fight coming. It was the fight to make next for the welterweight belt, and I'm glad it's finally happened. You've got Makhachev, who was obviously a champion at 155, and he just got on the lightweight division, obviously. Beat Oliveira to become the champion, then beats Volkanovski when he was pound-for-pound #1, knocks him out in the rematch, submits Dustin Poirier, submits Moicano, and now he's moving up to the welterweight division after being pound-for-pound #1, bulking up to 170, gave up the belt, moving up a weight class, now he's taking on the champion, JDM, who's also, who's undefeated in the UFC, just beat Belal Muhammad as an underdog to become the champion. This is one of the best fights in the UFC I think we've got this year, because I'm not going to say it's 50-50. There is somebody that I'm leaning towards, but stylistically, I'm so intrigued in this fight because you've got JDM, who I think is one of the best boxers in the UFC, definitely the best boxer, arguably the best striker in the welterweight division. He doesn't really struggle against other grapplers like he just showed against Belal Muhammad. He had no problem, no fear piecing him up on the feet. Same with Gilbert Burns. His striking is some of the best in the UFC right now, and his takedown defense as well. I know he hasn't really fought anybody like Makhachev, but defended takedowns against Gilbert Burns, defended takedowns against Belal Muhammad. He has shown to have pretty solid grappling. Obviously, you've got Makhachev, who's arguably the best wrestler in the division, one of the most physically strong wrestlers in the UFC right now, moving up a weight class as well. Also got amazing submission ability to pair with that. He's not just a control wrestler, and he's also got pretty solid striking too. He has got solid kickboxing. He can stand with the likes of Volkanovski and Poirier. This is one of the best fights the UFC put on this year, and I'd say it is a super fight. I wouldn't say it's on the same level as Poirier and Makhachev, but still, Makhachev moving up a weight class. Technically, if you want to class him as a champion, it's a champ versus champ matchup. Two guys on massive winning streaks. JDM versus Makhachev. It is going to be a super fight. My early prediction, and I've said this for a while, I am leaning towards JDM. I'm not saying it with too much confidence. I'm not going to be one of these people that's like, oh, Makhachev, he arguably lost to Volkanovski, so he's going to lose to JDM. No, it is going to be a close fight, but I think stylistically it is going to be tough for Makhachev. He's having to face somebody like JDM, who's got elite takedown defense, upper weight class as well, who's got arguably better boxing than Volkanovski, and again, doesn't fear too much about the takedowns coming his way. I think it is going to be a dogfight, and I'm leaning towards JDM winning that fight. But again, it needed to happen. It's got a date, November, MSG. Finally a good MSG headliner as well. No Jones versus Stipe bullshit like last year. Solid headliner. And if Makhachev can win, he's got to be pound-for-pound #1 again. A belt in 2 weight classes. Arguably one of the great, not arguably, definitely one of the greatest of all time. Maybe top 3. So massive stakes for Makhachev. Also massive for JDM as well, because if he can beat Makhachev, he's been the second only guy to beat Makhachev in MMA. So massive fight, big implications, and I think the fight itself will be sick. Should be a dogfight. It's going to be a banger. The co-main event as well is Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili. We needed this for women MMA. We needed a super fight in women MMA, and we finally got one for the co-main event of 322. You've got Shevchenko, who's just owned the flyweight division over the last few years. Obviously on a 2-fight winning streak, beat Grasso, beat Fiorot, back in the winning column, and she's just too good for the flyweight division. Apart from maybe Natalia Silva, there isn't really any big threats for Shevchenko, who I see being a big threat for obviously Shevchenko in this division. Again, Zhang Weili, who was obviously on a 5-fight winning streak, 4 title wins, just dominated Tatiana Suarez earlier this year, taking away her all. And she's just too good for the strawweight division. She dominates this division, so it is going to be interesting. Shevchenko, known to be one of the best kickboxers in women MMA, also has wrestling that she's kind of shown against Grasso and against her most recent fight against Manon Fiorot, very well-rounded. Against Zhang Weili, again, another well-rounded fighter, great boxing, and I think Zhang Weili's wrestling is just too good for the strawweight division. Just dominated Suarez, who coming into that fight was known for her wrestling too. So it is going to be a banger of a fight. 2 well-rounded women, pound-for-pound #1 versus pound-for-pound #2, 2 champions as well. I think apart from maybe Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison, by the way, I'm still waiting on the announcement of that fight. This is one of the most intriguing women MMA fights we've had in a while, and women MMA started to heat up, and like I said, women MMA needed this. We needed a big fight in women MMA. We've got 2 champions, pound-for-pound #1, pound-for-pound #2 going at it, and it should be a banger, maybe not a banger, but it should be an intriguing fight. Zhang Weili moving up a weight class. My early prediction is going to be Zhang Weili by unanimous decision. I'm not going to say that Valentina Shevchenko's washed, but she's definitely not in the ultimate form of her career. She's been having very close fights recently, hasn't been looking as dominant, whereas Zhang Weili, she's in the ultimate form of her career. She's in her prime. I genuinely think she 50-44s, no, 50-45s, literally every single strawweight on the planet right now. She's too good for that division, and I think even moving up a weight class, Shevchenko's bigger, but stylistically, I don't see her posing too much of a threat for Zhang Weili. I think Zhang Weili is going to get going with the wrestling, out-wrestle Valentina Shevchenko, pose a couple of problems problems on the feet. She's just in the ultimate form of her career, and I'm leaning towards her winning. Then we've also got Leon Edwards versus Carlos Prates. Finally, we've given Leon a striker. I never thought I'd say this about a Leon Edwards fight. This is a banger. I've been waiting to see Leon against a striker, whether it was like a Michael Morales or a Carlos Prates, and we've finally got it. You've got Carlos Prates, who I'd say is probably the most dangerous welterweight striker right now. His stand-up is kind of similar to Alex Pereira in the sense that he's got that touch of death, but he doesn't just wait for that one big KO. He picks people apart. He's got some of the best Muay Thai, his kicks, his use of range, his boxing, some of the best in this division right now. Just got a great spinning elbow KO over Jeff Neal. We've never seen Jeff Neal get flatlined like that, and he was picking him apart and ends it with a KO. Grabs the mic afterwards, calls out Leon Edwards. He's got his wish against Leon Edwards, and Leon isn't the most dangerous striker, but he's definitely one of the most technical strikers. That's kind of what he's known for at welterweight, his technical striking. And to be fair, all he's been having recently is grapplers. We haven't seen Leon against a striker in so long. It's been nearly 4 years if you count Nate Diaz, and even Nate Diaz isn't really a striker like that. So I'm glad to finally see Leon against a striker. Doesn't have to worry about the grappling, doesn't have to worry about the takedown. It's just a pure kickboxing matchup, and it should be interesting. Technical striker versus dangerous striker, new generation versus old generation. But my only prediction is going to be Carlos Prates by TKO. I know we haven't seen Leon Edwards against a striker recently, but I'm just bought on the hype of Prates. I know that he took that Ian Gary loss, but even then he nearly finished him and won the 5th round. I just think Carlos Prates is too much. Not only has he got high output, not only has he got some of the best Muay Thai and kickboxing in this division, but he's also super dangerous. I don't know if I trust the chin of Leon Edwards against a guy like Carlos Prates who hits as hard, and I'm expecting him to be a lot better since the Ian Gary fight. He's coming in with confidence. Like I said, he's one of the best Muay Thai strikers, and I know MMA math doesn't work, right? But I feel like Leon Edwards, even against a striker, I'm worried that he's going to be way too hesitant. He's going to be waiting too much for the right shot, trying to play too much of a technical game. That I'm not sure if that's going to work against Carlos Prates. And like I said, MMA math doesn't work right. But do you think Leon Edwards is making that fight as dominant against Jeff Neal as Carlos Prates did? Do you know what I mean? Do you think Leon Edwards is going out there and even coming close to picking apart Jeff Neal? I'm not sure he does, so I'm going to go Carlos Prates by TKO. I think the power's different. I think the striking's different. I'm expecting him to find the chin of Leon Edwards within 3. And I think this is going to be a big fight for Prates. I'm going to go Prates by KO. And then we've also got UFC 321 in the Aspinall versus Gone card, Nurmagomedov versus Mario Batista. I'm happy with this matchup. This could be a really boring fight on paper, but I'm happy with the matchup at base. You've got Mario Batista, who's obviously on a massive winning streak in the UFC, beat Jose Aldo, which was kind of his big fight because everybody hated him for it and everybody disgraced him, but then he had a really good performance in his last fight. Picked apart Patchy Mix in Mex's hype debut, looked great with the striking, and I'd say in Umar's career so far, Batista is the second biggest test for him outside of Merab because he can do everything. He can strike, he can grapple, he's durable, he's got great stamina. I think he's a bigger threat to Umar Nurmagomedov than Corey Sandhagen, if I'm being honest. And Umar obviously just lost to Merab, but he's probably known to be one of the best, if not the best wrestler. I guess it's got to be Merab, but the second best wrestler in this division right now. He's got that Dagestani wrestling style. Might not be the most dangerous fighter on the ground, but his wrestling's good, and he obviously has got solid striking too, so it is a fight that makes sense. I'm glad they've not just given Umar an immediate title fight, and this should be a #1 contender fight, right? If Mario Batista beats Umar, he's going to get a title fight. If Umar beats Batista, they're probably going to chuck him back in there with Merab if Merab wins, so he has got big implications, and I'm looking forward to the fight. My early prediction is going to be Umar Nurmagomedov by decision. Yeah, it is going to be a tough test for Umar. This isn't an easy fight, because I feel like every time we kind of, go against Mario Batista, Umar always wins, but I'm expecting Umar to get the job done. I do believe Umar's a future champion. His second ranked fight in the UFC was Merab himself, and even then he made it a competitive fight. I think he's going to come after that fight with much more experience, with a better game plan, and I just see him completely, not ragdolling, but comfortably beating Mario Batista with the wrestling. I think he out-wrestles Mario Batista across 15 minutes. The stand-up is where I'm probably going to favour Batista to win, but again, he's facing Umar Nurmagomedov. This ain't no Patchy Mix who relies on submissions and, just stares at you for 15 minutes. Umar's a different breed. I'm going to go Umar Nurmagomedov by decision. We've also got, for I believe, the Women's Strawweight Championship, Vernon Jandiroba versus Mackenzie Dern. Never thought I'd see Mackenzie Dern in a title fight again, but I like the fight itself. It's fresh blood at strawweight, but I can't help but think this fight just kind of feels like the battle of second place. Now that Zhang Weili's gone, two other contenders that would have not beat Zhang Weili is fighting for the belt. But you've got Vernon Jandiroba, who's on a 5-fight winning streak and is one of the best submission artists and just one of the best grapplers in this division. And grappling is amazing. Great submission artist. Like I said, just great grappling, great wrestling. Mackenzie Dern, I guess she's got a similar style. Very, very inconsistent. She's getting a title fight after being 2-2 in the last 4. But to be fair, Mackenzie Dern, she could be a stylistic threat. She's also got amazing jiu-jitsu, just submitted Amanda Ribas. early this year for the first card of the year. So it is going to be grappler versus grappler. It is a rematch. But I guess, you know, it's the two best contenders the UFC could pull out after Zhang Weili's moved up a weight class. I guess it should be intriguing. Again, it's going to be crazy if Mackenzie Dern becomes a champion. My only prediction is going to be Jandiroba by TKO. Yeah, I think Jandiroba is a legitimate contender. I was kind of looking forward to see her against Zhang Weili because of the grappling of Jandiroba. And I know Mackenzie Dern's got BJJ too, but I just think Jandiroba's on a different level. The way that she dominated Yang Jianan, her submission ability, I think she completely out-grapples Mackenzie Dern. And then I'd say round 3 to round 4, I'm expecting her to go out there and get a ground and pound finish over Mackenzie Dern. So I'm leaning towards Jandiroba to become the new strawweight champion. But again, kind of got bitter feelings towards this one because it does feel like the winner is just fighting for second place. But a new title fight, fresh blood, can't be too bad. Also, some rumoured bouts. We've got Arman Tsarukyan versus Paddy Pimblett, which has been rumoured for UFC 322 as well. I've got mixed opinions on this fight. I like it and I also don't like it. I like it because, first of all, they've got a rivalry. The build-up should be pretty fun. You know, they've got a rivalry towards each other. And stylistically as well, Paddy Pimblett, amazing BJJ, amazing grappling, one of the best grapplers at 155, especially after his most recent performance against Michael Chandler. Against Tsarukyan, who I would say is the best grappler. Amazing wrestling. He's fought BJJ guys before and he's, you know, dealt with them pretty easily. Like I said, just the best wrestler in this division. But the thing that concerns me, if this is true and we are getting Tsarukyan versus Pimblett, and they've also just announced Makhachev versus JDM, that kind of confirms Topuria versus Gaethje, which is one of the most fumbled title fights in a while. That's out of all the fucking contenders you've given Topuria, you've given Gaethje the 3-win. But yeah, it should be an intriguing fight itself. Paddy versus Arman. I'm leaning towards Arman winning this one pretty comfortably. I just think he completely dominates Paddy with the wrestling. We've seen Arman against BJJ guys before in Oliveira and Yoel Alvarez. He dealt with them pretty comfortably, especially Yoel Alvarez. So even though Paddy Pimblett is looking good and he is a big guy for the division, I think Tsarukyan's going to deal with him pretty handedly. And also some other fights that have been announced for the UFC. We've got Valter Walker, the guy with 3 heel hooks in a row, against Muhammad Usman. I'm not really too sure what the matchmakers are thinking because you'd think Valter Walker on a 3-fight winning streak at heavyweight with 3 heel hooks in a row, you'd think he'd get someone in the top 15, but they've given him Muhammad Usman. I'm expecting him to go out there and get another quick finish, but yeah, I'm not really sure about the matchmaking, but it should be, I guess, a decent finish for Valter Walker. You've also got Alexander Hernandez versus Diego Ferreira. I'm pretty sure a match made this fight after UFC 319, so the matchmakers must have been watching their channel, and it makes sense. You know, Hernandez is on a 3-fight winning streak. Diego Ferreira is like one of the borderline, you know, gatekeepers to top 15. So it makes sense for Hernandez. It's a step up for him. You've also got Blankfield versus Cortez. I assume this is going to be like a #1 contender fight, especially for Cortez. I do feel like this is the end of Cortez, though. You know, Blackfield is one of the best in this division. She's got amazing wrestling. Her stand-up's pretty weak, but I'd say it's on a similar level to Cortez. I feel like Cortez has met a match here, and she's going to get out-wrestled and dominated, potentially submitted to. But if Cortez can pull off a win, I mean, she's going to be fighting for a belt on her next fight, so big things for Cortez. You've also got Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown. I think that fight makes sense. Gabriel Bonfim just beat Stephen Thompson, but it wasn't really an impressive performance. And Randy Brown, he deserves somebody in the top 15, so Brown versus Bonfim, it makes sense. I'm not mad at that matchup. You've also got Jake Matthews versus Neil Magny, the battle of the mid-welterweights. No, I don't mind that matchup as well. You know, Jake Matthews has looked good in his last 2. Magny's falling off. I assume if Jake Matthews beats Magny, which he probably will do, he's going to get someone in the top 15, so I feel like this is just one of those gatekeeper unranked mid-fights at welterweight that we were just kind of waiting to happen. But we've got the fight. And we've also got Charles Jourdain versus Davy Grant. I think there's going to be another Davy Grant masterclass. For 38 years old, unranked, Davy Grant might be one of the best unranked fighters in the UFC. I think he's going to go out there and pick apart Charles Jourdain, and after that, give him someone in the top 15. But those are my thoughts on some of the fight announcements by the UFC recently. Let me know your thoughts and if you agree with the fights that have been announced and what are your thoughts on them.